Hey everybody, this week is the GDC, or the Game Developers Conference, being held in San Francisco. It's an annual event. It's like E3, but for game developers. Like, all the game devs get together and show off their new games, they network, there's like parties all over the city, and networking events that are happening through the whole 7 days of the event and a little bit longer. They have 2 big conference halls rented out. It's like a whole big thing, right? And I went last year. I am, however, not going this year, and there's a number of reasons for that, and I'd just like to share a couple. So I don't want to turn anybody off from the event. It's an interesting event, to be sure. It can definitely be useful for some people, but for me, I don't think that it's strictly necessary to go, and I don't know how terribly useful it actually is. So keep in mind, I've only been one time, which was last year. I had a pretty decent experience there. But I think that you can largely get the same experience online. So the thing is, if you're a game developer and you're looking to network, but if you can't go out to San Francisco for whatever reason, and this is more or less another reason why, like, it's pretty hefty price tag to go there, because in addition to, like, obviously flying to San Francisco, depending on where you are in the world, because people come to this event from everywhere, like, the other side of the planet, like everywhere in the world, people are coming here, so it's, obviously very expensive to get a plane ticket or whatever. There's a train ticket too. There's this event called a Train Jam, where there's a game jam, which, if you're unfamiliar with that, it's where game developers sequester themselves off usually in like a small physical space, or they have online game jams as well, where you just split off into teams and you make a video game in a short period of time, like 48 hours or something like that. So there's one event that's before GDC called the Train Jam, where everybody gets up on a train and they split off into groups and they make a game on the way to GDC while they're traveling, and there's a lot of high-profile people there, a lot of big indie developers, things like that. So that's one thing to definitely look into if you're interested in going, and if you live anywhere in the US, or if you like riding trains, I guess. But needless to say, it can be pretty expensive to go. In addition, once you get there, on top of all, like, the prices and, like, the food there, because it's California, so, like, everything's, crazy expensive. If you go there to buy just the Expo Pass, which is the basic pass for getting onto the show floor for GDC, for the conference. You get into the hall, basically. And I think you can go to the talks as well with that. I think there might be a limited number or something, but I think you can go to talks as well with the Expo Pass. That's anywhere from $150 to $250, depending on when you buy it. Because if you buy it, like, before January, like 2 months in advance, you get a better price, but really, like, that's pretty reasonable, I would say. But if you want to start getting into the upper tiers, like, there are tickets that you can buy that are up to, like, over $2,300. Like, it's there's some very expensive passes that you can buy. Now, obviously, for most people in the US, like, the Expo Pass is going to be pretty reasonable. But if you are coming from somewhere where it's going to be a lot more expensive, then, obviously that's going to give you some trouble. I've heard that a lot from people, especially, like, even in the US, like, indie developers who are, college students, like, who can't really spare a lot of cash. Like, it can be pretty exorbitant, the price tag, just to go. But for me, that's really, like, a secondary issue, because I would probably be willing to front the money if it was actually, like, something worthwhile for me to go to. And I might go again in the future, we'll see, I don't know. But for the most part, a lot of it you can get online, I think. So the experience goes, for a week, and you get to talk with all these people and meet interesting people, but a lot of this you can really do online. Like, if you're just active on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and so forth, like, if you're just active online for the rest of the year, you can meet people. Like, it's not something where you just need to get everyone together in one space and do that. And then, like, they have those talks. The talks are a big deal. They're given by, professional game developers or other people from the industry, people who are in related industries, things like that, right? Teachers and professors who teach about game design classes or computer science classes and things of that nature. So there are a lot of interesting and valuable talks that go on at GDC, but you can watch a lot of those online. And to be honest, if you go to the GDC Vault, I believe they're on YouTube, but they're also on, like, GDC's website. There are so many free talks that you'll never be able to exhaust them all. Like, nobody has time to watch all those. And even, I mean, you can find some really quality talks just online. So I would definitely recommend checking that out. But you can get basically the full GDC experience online without, with the exception of like, I mean, I guess some level of depth you would have to sacrifice if you didn't go, but you can go on the Vault, you can watch as many talks as you want, they're not on a schedule, which is good because if you go there physically, like I went last year, you can only go to so many talks in a day, and there are talks that are all happening at the same time. There's like more than 8 rooms, I think. There's a lot of different rooms that they have talks in that are all happening like every hour or so. It cycles to like the next talk. And so you have to make sure that you're not missing any if you have other planned events, because I mean there are tons of, meetups for different things, like if you're an artist or a programmer or a level designer, like whatever you could imagine, like sound design, like they have different meetups and get-togethers. But part of that too is because a lot of it is organized online already. Like there's a spreadsheet that's available on Facebook through the Facebook group, Fellowship of GDC Parties, that you can go and look at. You can go and chat with people there. So really, I guess my point is that if you don't have any really particular person who you need to speak to in person, or if there's not like any really valuable contact that you think you're going to get there, then I guess why bother? It would be my perspective. It just doesn't seem like the benefits outweigh the cost. Now, if for you it's different, that may be the case. Like that's fine, but I don't think that it's necessarily that valuable in this day and age to go to a physical conference to meet with people. So obviously you're going to meet different people who feel differently about that, and maybe there are also cultural distinctions, especially given that there are so many people from different places in the world who come to this conference. But when you hear about, like Edmund McMillan and, what's his name? Tommy Refines, however you spell his name. See, that's the thing too, is I've only ever read his name online. I've never actually heard it spoken out loud, I don't think, so I don't know how to pronounce it. But those guys, Team Meat, the guys who made Super Meat Boy, they apparently never met in real life. Like, they just met online through, like, I think through Newgrounds or something, but they just met online, they started talking, they made this whole game that was super successful, and then they met each other, like, either partway through that process or after the game was launched or something. Like, you don't need to physically meet with people anymore. Now, if you're going for a job in the AAA industry, first of all, why? And I know that's kind of a jaded response, but like I'm an indie game developer, so I'm obviously in this side of the industry for a reason, so I have my clear biases against AAA. But if you're going for AAA, that might be a good thing to do. Obviously, if you're like an artist, they have portfolio reviews there that are really interesting to do, that can be really helpful. Nintendo was there doing that last year in one of the conference halls. There are plenty of things to do if you're looking for a job with a AAA company. And maybe I'll make a video in the future too about my feelings about AAAs, because the bigger game studios do tend to have some problems that I find are make them definitely less appealing to employees. So anyway, I'm gonna probably talk about that in the near future. I don't know, and they're not all like that, obviously. Like I'm sort of generalizing. Like obviously, if you go work at EA or like Ubisoft, it probably sucks, and you're gonna get laid off, or you're only gonna have like a contract that lasts like 9 months to a year, which is something that I had thought before I went to GDC last year, and then I went and I talked to people who were in those situations, and they clarified that yeah, that is in fact the case. But I'll probably make another video about that in the future. Maybe one that's a little bit shorter than this. But basically, that's the summation of my thoughts about GDC. So if you're thinking about going, I'm not going to say don't, but just be aware that there are a lot of resources that are available to people who don't want to physically be there. Like last year, for instance, let me give one more example. Last year, I went to a talk, and they have usually time set aside at the end for questions, and there's so many questions because everybody there is, for the most part, really passionate about what they do and really interested in the subject. There was a talk, and I don't remember what the name of the studio was that was giving it. It was like 4 people from one studio. I think they were from New Zealand. So they had time for questions at the end, and people went up, and I don't remember if I was in line. I had a question, and we ran out of time to get to it. So I just tweeted at one of the developers afterwards, like right after, and she got right back to me and answered my question, so that was great. So if you guys, if you want to like check the schedules too, because I'm sure that those are available online, you can check like the schedules for talks. You can, ask your questions afterwards, or, if you have any thoughts about anything, like obviously you can't watch them right after because I don't know if they're live streamed or anything, but if you check out the GDC Vault, I'm sure that a lot of people are really friendly. You can probably hit them up on social media and get some good information. Basically, that's all that I wanted to say. Just had some thoughts about the GDC while it's going on this week. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.